mixing bowls that you have in your kitchen. And well, soon the solstice, the winter solstice will be here. We're looking forward to that. And I think this winter solstice is going to be a very positive one for some people. Maybe some good doors will open up for some people, and some changes will come in their life for the better. And I'm hoping that everyone's preparing for it, that are interested in the solstice. Previously I talked about you breathe in positive energy, you're breathing in blessings. Breathe out anything negative in you. Breathe out anything that's painful, anything that's poisoning your system. So breathe in, breathe out. Breathe in, breathe out. And you can do it whichever way you feel comfortable, you know. There's TV show that I used to watch. Well, I think it was The Twilight Zone. There was a story they had that I found very fascinating at the time. The story was there was this kid, there was this child, and he was people noticed he was making predictions. You know, it's probably in his early teens, and he was making predictions, and some of them were, since they were so correct, he ended up, you know, there was a producer and everything, they wanted to put him on TV, and they got a show for him, and each week he'd get up there and he would say something that he could see was going to happen. And like I said, I don't know if this was the Twilight Zone or not, but so, you know, he'd sometimes say, you know, there's going to be a famine, or locusts, you know, crops would be destroyed, or maybe predict something about a sickness or a tsunami or an earthquake, tornado. You know, he'd say, well, it'll be over in a certain area, and he was hitting these things quite correct. Became very popular on TV. So there was a man and a woman. There was kind of their sponsor. I'm not sure if he was the producer of the show or what. But he started watching the kid. He said, well, how can this kid do this? How can he be predicting these things? And so the man and the woman, as they were watching, they noticed that the kid would go to the library and he'd sit and he'd read certain books. So they would then go in and they'd find, they found out what kind of books he was reading. So they noticed that, if he had talked about tornadoes, well, that week he was reading about tornadoes, and maybe he was also reading about certain parts of the country or, geography or something. And same way with earthquakes, tidal waves or tsunamis. They noticed each time that he would notice when he'd talk, he would, what he predicted was with what he was reading at the time during the week, the interest that he had, and he'd see these things. So towards the end of the, it was a 30-minute show. Towards the end of the show, the kid gets up on the stage, and he says, well, tomorrow at noontime, he says there's going to be no more wars. He says people will not have to worry. There's not going to be any more sickness. He says that there's going to be a great peace that will come to the world. He says there's going to be a big peace. And this will be happening tomorrow at noontime. He says people should go outside and before noon, look around, look at your trees and the house, and look at the people you love. And he says look at the sky, and he says and look, and then appreciate everything you've got. He says and because there's going to be a great peace will come to the to everyone. And he says it's going to be beautiful. So the show ended, and everyone was, the audience, everyone, there was like, what's this all about? What's he talking about? How can there be peace? No more war, no more diseases? What's going on with this thing? And the girl, the woman there, she went up to the fella that had been, watching what the kid was doing, and she says, do you know what this is all about? What was he looking at? The guy was hesitating as if he didn't want to say anything. And he said, he looked at the woman there and a couple of people there, and he said, well, I noticed that he was studying about the sun. He says, and he was also reading books on supernovas. And the story ends at that point. That's where the story ends. It was one of those stories that stuck with me all these years. I have no idea. Could have been Twilight Zone, one of these other shows around that time. But probably Twilight. It sounds like something like Twilight. So, the boy that could predict things, and it's evening, and soon there'll be the winter solstice. Namaste. Breathe in. Breathe out. Breathe in. Breathe out. Namaste.